Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever stopped to wonder exactly how we got from the very first unpredictable sparks of gunpowder to the incredibly advanced mechanical systems we have today, well, you are in the right place. Today, we're setting the stage to examine how humans spent a full millennium, 1,000 years, engineering and perfecting the point-and-click mechanism. It's a fascinating story of problem solving. It's about pushing to make a single mechanical action faster, safer for the user, and just incredibly more reliable. The technological leap here it's absolutely wild. On one end of the spectrum, you have the earliest iterations, which were literally just simple bamboo tubes shooting out flames. And on the other end, you have modern, highly modular, precision platforms like the AR-15. Obviously, this kind of transition doesn't happen by accident, right? And it certainly didn't happen overnight. Actually, it took a staggering 1,000 years. That is 10 centuries of continuous iterative problem solving and mechanical evolution. We're talking generations of engineers, blacksmiths, and inventors passing down their knowledge, just slowly chipping away at the bottlenecks of physics and chemistry. Okay, let's dive into this and map out this massive engineering challenge chronologically. We'll start with the baseline tech back in the 850s, and then we'll trace the major mechanical milestones all the way into today's world of smart optics and polymers. We'll begin in the black powder era, running from the 800s to the 1400s. At this stage, it was quite literally just fire and tubes. Progress was slow, deliberate, and honestly pretty dangerous. The whole story starts in China in the 850s with fire lances. Think of these as basically bamboo flamethrowers. By the 1200s, metal barrels start to appear. Now, these 3-foot hand cannons were barely accurate and had to be manually lit with a fuse. But the real game changer arrived in the 1400s with the matchlock. By adding a squeeze lever to drop a burning match core directly into the powder, engineers invented the very first trigger mechanism. For the first time, the user could actually keep both hands on the weapon. Huge deal. That brings us to Era 2. Slower but deadlier, from the 1500s to the 1800s. Here, the engineering challenge totally shifted from simply creating fire to the quest for absolute reliability. See, the old matchlock method relied on a vulnerable, continuous open flame. If it was raining or even just windy, absolute nightmare. So in the 1500s, engineers solved this with the wheel lock and the flintlock. By using friction to create sparks instead of relying on an open flame, the mechanism became vastly more reliable. In fact, this spark-based system was so successful, it ruled the world for 300 straight years. But as reliability improved, accuracy became the next big hurdle. Enter rifling in the 1600s. By cutting spiral grooves inside the barrel, the bullet is forced to spin, kind of like a perfectly thrown football, making it significantly more accurate. But as is always the case, every solution creates a new problem. Loading a tight-fitting bullet into a rifled barrel from the muzzle was painfully slow. The next massive leap in reliability arrived in 1835 with the percussion cap. Instead of pouring loose powder into a pan and just praying a spark catches it, engineers created a small, self-contained explosive cap. It ignited faster, it actually worked in the rain, and it completely standardized the firing process. It's this exact innovation that paved the way for the famous 1836 Colt Patterson, officially launching the revolver era. Okay, hold on tight, because as we hit the 1840s, the pacing of innovation just absolutely skyrockets. Welcome to the era of cartridges and automation, taking us from a single agonizing shot to an astonishing 30 shots per second. And this brilliantly illustrates that massive jump. Before the 1840s, reloading required roughly 60 seconds of complex, manual labor, a whole minute. Then came the metal cartridge. By combining the bullet, the powder, and the primer into one single brass case, reload time plummeted from 60 seconds down to just 3 seconds. The bottleneck was entirely shattered. With the cartridge perfected, the door to true automation was kicked wide open. Just look at this number, 600 rounds per minute. No way, right? But in 1884, an inventor named Hiram Maxim introduced the first true machine gun. His ingenious engineering breakthrough was using the weapon's own backward recoil energy to automatically eject the empty case, load a new one, and fire, over and over and over again. This incredibly fast-paced era birthed some legendary mechanical platforms. In 1860, the Spencer repeating rifle allowed 7 rapid shots via a lever action. And by 1911, engineering precision really peaked with the Colt M1911. This was a semi-automatic pistol so flawlessly designed that it remained the standard U.S. military sidearm for 74 years. Toward the end of this era, in 1944, the German STG-44 was introduced, bringing with it a brand new mechanical classification, the assault rifle. Strictly from an engineering standpoint, this is defined as a firearm that shoots rifle bullets on full auto, utilizing an intermediate or mid-power cartridge. It bridged the mechanical gap between heavy, long-range rifles and short-range submachine guns. Which brings us to our final section, the modern era, running from the 1950s to today. Now, the core internal mechanics largely stabilize here, but the materials, they undergo a sci-fi level evolution. Track how the materials evolve here. Post-World War II engineering gave us the AK-47, famous for being cheap, reliable, and made of stamped steel. In 1959, the AR-15 shifted the focus over to lightweight aluminum and modularity. And by the 1980s, the paradigm shifted entirely again with the Glock 17. By utilizing a polymer frame, it weighed just 2 pounds and was entirely rust-proof, pushing military and police forces away from heavy all-metal frames forever. Today, the innovation happens largely on the periphery. We are firmly in the age of smart optics, 3D printed parts, and binary triggers. Yet, it's pretty fascinating to note that beneath all these cutting-edge accessories, the fundamental mechanics, the basic metal cartridge, and the gas and recoil systems are essentially the exact same concepts pioneered by Hiram Maxim back in 1884. So, the crucial point is this. Firearms follow the exact same technological development pattern as airplanes, mobile phones, or even a Tesla. Step 1 is establishing the basic conceptual mechanics, like that 1836 revolver. Step 2 is continuously refining the materials and the manufacturing processes. And Step 3 is arriving at the modern iteration, applying today's cutting-edge polymers to that original concept, much like a modern Glock. Which leaves us looking forward. For 1,000 years, this has been a story of mechanical engineering. But are smart guns the next great evolution? I mean, firearms locked by biometrics and fingerprints have been promised since the 1990s. The underlying tech works, but adoption has been incredibly slow due to lingering issues with cost and absolute reliability. So the question for you to consider is this. As those reliability issues are eventually solved, will software and code become the ultimate frontier in the next 1,000 years of this engineering story? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating timeline with me.